Привет everyone! Raf is on the air and we'll be discussing the technological progress of Teyvat. This video was inspired by numerous comments on the internet where people expressed their dislike for the idea that in the supposedly archaic Natlan, a blacksmith had rollerblades and a DJ console. The arguments usually boil down to a generalized thesis Genshin is a fantasy means medieval vibes, and Natlan is a tribal land, so it should be relatively primitive in its technological development, not resembling the 21st century. Let me start by saying that if there is something you personally don't like, that's completely fine. It's a matter of taste and a subjective opinion. However, I want to address the rather weak arguments that players usually use to give their statements an illusion of objectivity. Поехали! Let's begin with that Hoyoverse and Teyvat are and draw some analogies. In 1962, the science fiction writer Arthur Clarke formulated 3 laws, one of which states: any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. This concept is often used in works of fiction, but I like to recall a specific legendary game series. In 1986, Might and Magic Book 1 The Secret of the Inner Sanctum was released. This game started a massive series with many spin-offs like Heroes of Might and Magic. To summarize briefly, there once existed a highly advanced race known as the Ancients, who colonized worlds in the universe, provided their own overseas to manage them, and so on. In many worlds of this franchise, the technologies of highly advanced civilization perceived as magic, while Heroes of Might and Magic was a purely fantasy spin-off. As for Hoyoverse, we have a large universe represented by 2 fundamental forces, the imaginary tree and the sea of quanta. In this vast universe there are a lot of worlds separated by certain barriers, which can be only traversed by highly advanced civilizations or beings with cosmic level powers. The technological side of the Hoyoverse is primarily represented by the Honkai series, which also reveals the workings of the game's universe and its fundamental laws. In our analogy, it corresponds to Might and Magic. Genshin Impact, on the other hand, can be seen as a kind of spin-off similar to Heroes of Might and Magic. The events take place on a separate single planet called Teyvat. Now let's break down the basics of Teyvat's history and its level of technological development. Initially, the planet was inhabited by the Sharp Dragons ruled by 7 sovereigns and the Dragon King Nibelung. The dragons possessed vast knowledge of the physics of their world and could freely wield the elemental energy of Teyvat. At least one of the dragons, the Pyro sovereign Shokoatl, and its people studied science, conducted experiments, and achieved a very high level of technological progress. Let's recall how the development of civilizations is usually measured. Since we don't know of any other civilization in the real world except ours, let's refer to the Soviet radio astronomer Nikolai Kardashev and his hypothetical scale for developing methods of searching for extraterrestrial civilizations. The scale defines civilization types based on their ability to utilize energy resources. A Type 1 civilization can harness all available energy resources on its home planet. A Type 2 civilization utilizes the energy of its star. A Type 3 civilization controls the energy of its galaxy. Extensions to the scale later proposed more types of civilizations, like Type 4, which can harness the energy of an entire universe, and even Type 5, which controls multiple universes, multiverse. Later, Carl Sagan suggested considering not only the energy utilized as a metric, but also the amount of information controlled by a civilization as a measurement criteria. Now back to Hoyoverse and its civilizations. The people of Earth in Honkai Impact 3rd clearly approached a Type 1 civilization, while the Sanzhou Alliance from Honkai Star Rail is somewhere between Type 2 and Type 3. The Dragon civilization of Teyvat can confidently be classified as Type 1 civilization of the Kardashev scale, which is significantly more advanced than our current human civilization in real world. Then aliens arrived on Teyvat, Thanes, who seem to represent a powerful civilization, and they begin war, colonization, and terraforming. These technologies could also be categorized between Type 2 and Type 3 civilizations. Now let's move on to the main story quest and the state of technology in the present. First of all, the protagonist, the traveler, is a world hopper, equipped with technologies of around of a Type 3 civilization, and our companion Paimon clearly has connections to Celestia, tying her to a similar level of technological development. The human civilization in Enkanomia, before it was driven underground, also possessed fairly advanced technologies. In Teyvat itself, across all nations, we can see two highly advanced technologies, the teleportation devices and the gnosis held by the Archons, which were created by aliens from the remain of other aliens, not very medieval, yeah, right? Not too much fantasy. Let's talk about the medieval period, which is often linked to fantasy settings now. More often, the European Middle Ages refers to the period after antiquity, from the fall of the Roman Empire, from 500 to 1500 AD, after which comes the modern era. In Teyvat, the ancient era can be considered the time of the old unified civilization, part of which was in Enkanomia, and now let's look at all 7 regions. Mondstadt, knights, church, and alchemy. It may seem rather medieval, yeah? But it's actually already modern time. And how we will determine this? Well, by wine. After all, winemaking is the region's main industry, and in Mondstadt they use glass bottles, and this technology in wine industry, we begin to use it in 17th century. If we speak about Lyra, things are more complex, as medieval and modern era are Western historical terms, but we can recall the adapters technologies like our teapot and adapted domains. However, for regular people, we can judge by the rails in the chasm, which the first rails in mines date back to the 16th century, but they were wooden, and only in 18th century we begin to use steel, iron, rails. So not too much medieval 18th century. In Azuma, here the historical parallel is actually the reference of this region, and we can surely speak about Meiji period, and it is the second half of the 19th century. Sumeru is a mix of golden age of Islam, Persia, Egypt, and India, but we can see the advanced technological progress. The Shred created high-tech machines centuries ago, and the Sumeru Academia's researchers have made great studies in energy research, mechanics, and more. And we can see virtual reality created by Akasha, which can be copied by some academia's researchers. and even a giant robot, for skirmish, of course. Fontaine, technological levels similar to the 20th century and higher, because robots which we see there, for example, the robotic dog in the Artisan Crates quest, and some other automatons are even more advanced than ones from, for example, Boston Dynamics. And if we talk about Snezhne, this nation can produce humanoid androids like Catherine, seen in every region, yeah, and so not so very medieval, yeah. And we will return to Natlan, and in some ways it is indeed the most archaic region, but its inhabitants also use technologies from other nations and the heritage passed down from dragons. In essence, Teyvat's technological levels compares to our world from the 17th to 21st centuries, while in certain areas we see technologies far beyond our current reach. Finally, let's address Xilonen. She's a blacksmith from the Children of Echo tribe. Effectively, the leading engineer in Natlan. She works with diverse materials like glass, obsidian, various metals and alloys, and so on. She built the turbo whirlwind for Kachina and sunglasses for Mavuika. Regarding music, the first sound recording device was patented in 1857 with vinyl records appearing in 1948. The term disc jockey (DJ) was coined in 1935, and mixing consoles, DJ consoles were developed in the later half of the 20th century. As for the roller skates, they first appeared in 1760, with the modern version patented in 1979. In conclusion, you may like or dislike certain things in the game, but most often it's a matter of personal taste. There are no objective arguments about the technologies in Teyvat, as the technological progress on this planet has in many areas advanced far beyond the real world. The fantasy setting here is more about lifestyle elements, while many people are simply unable to explain how the technologies around them work, and it is actual for Teyvat and for real world, yeah. So let's resume. Teyvat's technological level spans from the 17th century to the 20th century and further, not the medieval era. Personally, I find Xilonen's animations with rollerblades and a DJ console quite fitting for Teyvat's world. There are no real disconnect, in my opinion. To wrap up, I'm eager to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and remember, fight for all that's beautiful in the world, keep fire in your heart to melt all destructive obstacles with the power of love and compassion. Goodbye, and look forward to a new story.